Welcome back to the Traits of a Champion podcast. I'm Kevin Flatman, and we are so excited that you are joining us for this special episode. We've had some incredible guests on the podcast here in the last few episodes, and we are really excited about this guest. Sarah Huckabee Sanders is joining us on the Traits of a Champion podcast, and this is an incredible conversation.
She's an incredible lady. Had the privilege to go up to the governor's mansion there in Little Rock and to sit down with her. She was very gracious with her time, and obviously, was running a state, very, very busy, but she was very kind, very gracious, and we had a wonderful time, very personable, one of the most personable people I've been around in at that level in a long, long time, and brilliant, smart. When you talk about a champion, Sarah Huckabee Sanders has done it at so many different levels. Of course, she was the secretary, spokesperson for Donald Trump in his first term, and really, all the shots fired, and just handled it with strength and grace and humility, kindness, but also, listen, don't think you're just gonna just roll over her, because she's a strong individual, and I love that about her, but just very, very kind.
They say that being the governor of any state is one of the hardest jobs to do in America, because they say that it's from potholes to policy, you're involved in it. And so she does have an incredibly hard job. And not only that, the spotlight is on her tremendously because of her past job in the previous Trump administration to now doing what she's doing. They say that she could be somebody that potentially makes further advancements in federal government and things like that. And I have to say, be honest with you, I couldn't be more thrilled that she is somebody that is in our politics today.
Well, the sky's the limit with her, because she is brilliant, because she's all the things that a champion should be. She's incredibly focused in what she's doing. To be focused at that level, but then to also be so focused on being a great mom. And we talk about that.
I'll talk about that.
We talk about that because she's passionate about being a mom too, and a wife. So she has incredible focus. She understands attitude, and she really gets it. That when you're around her, she's very infectious, because she's so positive and she's so energetic and kind, and yet, it's like Speaker Johnson said, don't misinterpret that kindness is weak. It's not. It's a great strength. And Sarah Huckabee Sanders does that phenomenally well. She works very hard, obviously her work hard, but her influence is what is so impressive, is the influence that she has on so many people. I think she gets a lot of that from her dad, who, of course, is ambassador now, Mike Huckabee, and is a brilliant guy in his own right. And they're such an incredible father-daughter example of champions. And then just the don't quit mentality. She went through a lot working for the president in that first term. And, so much so that she was asked to leave restaurants and some really ugly things. And she just stayed focused and didn't quit. So you know what? There's ups, there's downs, but she stayed the course. And champions have to do that. You're going to get criticized. You're going to go through difficult times. You're going to get challenged and attacked. And listen, you just got to stay the course. And most of all, you don't quit. And I love the fact that she is committed and in it for the long haul.
There's no doubt. And I love this conversation, and you are going to absolutely love this conversation with Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders. You will be blessed. You will be challenged. But not only that, you will get to see some insight and so a little bit of behind the scenes of what it's like to be a governor of the great state of Arkansas. So for all of those Arkansas people that listen to us, you will be loving this episode. You really will be blessed to listen in. So enjoy Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Here's the conversation.
All right. Well, Governor, thank you so much for being here with us. It is such an honor for us to be here in Little Rock with you at your beautiful mansion. And thank you for this time. It really is so special for us. So let's jump right into it.
Sure.
Talk to us about your path, how, obviously we all saw you in the Trump administration, the first one, and then to now be the governor of the state of Arkansas. Tell us a little bit about your journey and your path.
Sure. Well, I like to kind of joke that I accidentally became the press secretary. I grew up in politics. My dad was governor of Arkansas for nearly 11 years. I loved being part of it. I loved traveling with my dad all over the state, in large part because it was just a great way for me to spend time with him. And I loved seeing what he was doing and the way he was able to make an impact and help people. As a pastor, he went from, people would ask him all the time, what's the difference of going from being a pastor to a politician? And he's like, you just have a bigger church. And he said the other biggest difference is that in church work, they always say that God loves a cheerful giver. And he's like, in politics, we don't care, we'll take from anybody. And so it's a slightly different thing, but I watched him in that role and I knew I wanted to be involved, but I always wanted to help other people get elected, help them once they got elected to implement good policy. I was not really pursuing a public-facing career, and I'd worked on campaigns all over the country for quite a few years, including for my dad, and signed on for President Trump fairly early in 2016. I came on to help with outreach to women, to Southerners, and evangelicals as a senior advisor. And I got a call one afternoon asking me to do an interview on CNN the next morning. I said, sure, why not? I didn't know enough to say no at the time, I guess, and so I did. And they called me back after I'd finished the interview. They didn't say I was good, but they said I wasn't that bad, and asked if I'd do it again. And so I did, and every day for the next week, I did TV interviews talking about why people should support the president. And after that, I got this phone call, no hello, no greeting, just somebody kind of yelling into the phone, I don't care what they hired you for, this is the only thing I want you to do. And it was then candidate Donald Trump saying that he just wanted me to go on TV and be a surrogate. And so he saw something in me, frankly, I hadn't seen in myself. And pushed me out of my comfort zone to start taking a much more public-facing role. And within, a few months, he won a historic upset that November, becomes president, and by December, my family sold our house in Arkansas. We moved our 3 kids that were 5, 3, and 1 to Washington, D.C., and things have never been the same since.
Yeah. Watching you, just such a big fan, if I can say that, not only as a, the connection there as a PK and all that stuff, but just to watch how you handled yourself. And part of our podcast is talking about difficult people, and leaders have to, anybody can lead good people. That's easy. Anybody, you can lead supporters, just love them and lead them. But it's the difficult people that we have to lead. And to watch you in the press room dealing with very, very hostile people and just difficult people. Talk to us about that. Talk to you about winning with difficult people. What are some of the secrets there?
Maybe I'll get some advice from you. But there are certainly a lot of challenges in that room, and I'm still learning how to lead difficult people. But I think probably for me, the most important factor and the thing that kept me moving forward and having a positive attitude was long before I got to that room and before I stepped up to that podium, is I knew who I was and what I believed. I wasn't looking for definition or validation from the people in that room or even the people at home watching on TV. I have a creator who had already given my life purpose before I stepped in there. And so if I hadn't had that, I don't think I would have survived nearly as long as I did. And certainly I don't think would have had the confidence to make it through some of the really difficult, challenging days, of which we had a lot in the White House. It also helped remind me of the joy and the purpose in those difficult moments. And so, I think the president has said a few times over the last few months, and a lesson that I don't know if it's just something we tell ourselves to feel better in really challenging moments, but the devil doesn't waste his time on people who aren't making a difference. And so knowing that we are out there hopefully sharing God's love and letting people see God in the lives that we live, even in tiny glimpses and tiny moments, is something that I think helps you get through those really difficult days and really sometimes what you see as impossible moments.
I love that, because one of the things we like to talk about, and I share with congregation, but we, Mike, Speaker Johnson, now Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen talked to us about, was that many times that being kind and respectful doesn't mean you're not being strong.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people do that. And I try to tell young leaders and young folks that, look, you can still be strong and loving.
Yeah.
And that's not a weakness at all. As a matter of fact, it's one of the greatest strengths, that you can show humility and respect and kindness and still be strong with that. And you did that so masterfully, Governor. I mean, you really did. And to be able to do it in that setting, I can only imagine. There's hostility. And I hear a lot of, when I see champions, I see a lot of not cockiness, but confidence. And you have a tremendous confidence about you. And that's amazing. And so that comes from your faith. It comes from knowing who you are in Christ. Talk to us a little bit about your faith journey.
Yeah, so I grew up before my dad went into politics. He was a pastor.
Yeah.
So I have two older brothers. We grew up spending basically every day at the church. I'm sure you know that scene well. Yeah. We played hide and seek in the Sunday school classrooms and went swimming in the baptistry a couple times, even during a service, which we are just now getting forgiveness from our parents for. But
classic.
We were always in the church and around it. It was something that was talked about at our dinner table, and so something I was very just comfortable. I learned a lot of the Bible stories, but it wasn't until probably I was in college that I really started to seek and understand my faith as my own versus just what we did. I grew up in it. I could recite scripture and did Bible drill and all those things, but to really seek it, desire it, and have a hunger for biblical truth in my own faith journey, that really took off when I was in college. I went to Ouachita Baptist University, a small private Christian school, a place that I swore I would never attend, right up until a couple months before I left for college. My parents went there. I had an older brother that went there, aunts, cousins. I wanted nothing to do. I wanted my own path. I wanted to do my own thing. And in fact, was enrolled at a different college. And a couple months before, I actually was serving as a counselor at a camp. And there was just something that in that week, I was like, paying attention, that kids were paying attention to what I was doing, to what I was saying. And I felt like the path I was about to take was not the one I was supposed to be on. Still to this day, I have no idea how I got the confidence to go in and tell my parents, because I had been telling them for so long that I wanted nothing to do with this place and where they wanted me to go. And I came in one day and I said, I've decided I'm not going to go to the University of Arkansas, and I'm going to go to Ouachita. And they're like, yeah, right, Sarah, what do you really do? And I was like, I really think this is what I'm supposed to do. And they were like, well, you should have thought about that. You didn't apply. You haven't done anything. And my dad said, you're going to have to call and figure out how to get in on your own. And so I did. And they, reserve a handful of spots for the kids that change their minds, and they have openings that come up. And I took one of the last spots they had. It's one of the best decisions I could have made, and was really surrounded by a community of people that held me accountable, pushed me to be better, and gave me confidence, frankly, I didn't know I needed at the time. And so despite the fact it was a place where I had a lot of family who had been, I still really got to pave my own path and learn a lot about who I was, why I believed what I did, and solidified my faith in a way that really prepared me for the journey after that.
Making it your own is very important, and we have a lot of folks that kind of check out our podcast that that maybe aren't believers in Christ, that maybe don't follow him, and we're just telling them, hey, just check it out and try it out. And one of the things you've got to do, especially as a PK, is you've got to, for those of you who don't know, that's a preacher's kid. I've got 2 of them, and you were one of them. But it's that at some point your faith has to become your own. And I think it's the same thing with confidence. At some point, you can't rest on your parents or the confidence that you get from your parents. You've got to make it your own. And that's such a journey for our folks. And so I challenge our listeners to get out there and to make your faith your own, because it's a journey that you have to do on your own. And same thing with confidence. You're going to get there on your own. Talk to us about, so you're a mom, you're a governor, and we love talking about winning. And kind of our mantra is, look, don't set up our participation trophy in your marriage, raising your kids, in your job, certainly in your walk, your faith walk. Go for the win. That's what we're called to do. We're all called to run the race, run in such a way to win. Talk to us about how do you win at home and win up here as leading the state of Arkansas?
Some days I'm not sure we're winning in any category. I like to think we are. Yeah. But as a mom with a new teenager and one about to become a teenager, we are in the thick of things at our house. And so every day presents a new challenge. I joke that I thought the legislature was difficult to deal with, and then I had a teenager and I learned this is nothing. But I think being a mom makes me a better governor. And being a Christian makes me better at everything.
That's a great story.
And so because I'm a mom, I know that every single decision that I make has a direct impact on the life of my 3 kids as much as it does every kid growing up in our state. And a lot of the challenges that we're facing at our home are the same challenges that every parent in Arkansas is dealing with. When to, give your kids a cell phone, and where will they go to school, and how do we prepare them when they get there, and when they finish with school, how do we set them up for success, and will there be opportunity, and how do we raise them to teach others and share kindness with them? All those things are things that we're dealing with at our house. And so they're things that I take with me into the office as well. And so I think all of it has given me a better perspective and helped prepare me for each of those roles, so that I can do them all better than I would without, kind of the influence of each piece of it.
Yeah, just the process of each day at a time. Whenever we talk about winning, and you say, well, just as an outsider looking in, it looks to me like you're winning very, very well. Just in the example that you are. Talk to us about that. What does winning look like for you? What is it, not only in your home, but obviously as the governor and a leader of the state, and really a leader in the nation? What does winning look like, in the micro and the macro? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think the best way to explain is my family, we like to tell stories a lot. I'm sure you understand. But I watched my dad in this role, as we were talking about before. I got to see the difference that he made in people's lives. All of growing up, he absolutely loved this job. He talked about how much he loved being governor of Arkansas. And so I got to see him not only excel in that, but hear how much love he had for the role that he played. And so fast forward, I get elected governor of Arkansas. I'm in, the first couple of weeks of serving, and we had a rough 48 hours. And I'm thinking, this is the best job in the world. My dad loved this. Why? And so I pick up the phone. I call my dad looking for a little, fatherly advice and some encouragement. I said, Dad, how you're always talking about how much you love being governor and how it's the best job in the world. And he's like, it really is, Sarah. And I kind of joked. I said, how long does it take before it starts? And he laughed and he said, well, Sarah, to be honest with you, you haven't done anything yet. I said, Dad, I called you to encourage me, not to hurt my feelings more. Right. And he said, let me explain. He said, at some point here in the next few months, you're going to finish this legislative session. You're going to be more settled into your role, and you're going to be doing things that actually make a difference in people's lives. And you're going to be out somewhere in a moment when you don't expect it. You're going to have a single mom who's at her breaking point that comes up and tells you that because of the work you're doing, their kid is now in a school where they're thriving instead of struggling. They can actually afford to put groceries in their cart when they run into you at the grocery store. When you have those moments, He said, you'll understand why it's the best job. And now everywhere that we go, we get to meet people whose lives are just a little bit better than when we started. We're going to continue to face huge challenges. We're going to continue to make mistakes and, have to figure out how to do things better. But ultimately, I know that people's lives are a little bit better now than when we started. And to me, that's what winning looks like. Even if it's only one family that we help, I hope it's not, but even if it's just one, then we will have won in a way that I think shows that this was worth going through even some of the most difficult days. And so for me, it's really simple. Are we helping people? Are we lifting them up? And frankly, are we ultimately adding to God's kingdom, or are we not? If we do those things, then we're winning. If we don't, then it's time to pack up and try something else and go somewhere else.
Wow. As you talk about that, you talk about the importance of winning through people, because I tell folks all the time, look, leaders have got to look past the programs and the policies. At some point, you better understand that you're not leading those things; you're leading people, and that whether that be a pastor, governor, or a business leader, or even at home, you've got to make sure that we keep the people as the forefront. You talk a lot about your dad, and I want to just tell you, I was with your dad in Israel in December, and he was the star of every event that we attended. He was just absolutely amazing, just kind, warm, brilliant, all the things, and so proud of him. That it's like, that's our U.S. representative right there. We're so proud of his representation as an American, but also just his faith. So obviously he was a great champion in your life. Tell us who's been some other great champions in your life that have poured into your life, and what made them those champions?
So my dad gets obviously a lot of credit. He's very well known, and certainly had a huge influence and was a big mentor for me. My mom is probably one of the secret heroes in our family. She does not get all of the recognition, but she certainly has carried a lot for our family. My mom has overcome impossible challenges. When she was 20 years old, she was diagnosed with spinal cancer. My parents had just gotten married. They told her that there was a good chance she wouldn't live. If she did, she'd never likely walk. And if those two things managed to work out, she most certainly would never have kids. Well, my mom is your typical Southern woman, and she doesn't take no very well. And so she defied every odd. Not only did she obviously live, but she went on to live an incredible just life filled with joy and passion and accomplishment. She's run marathons. She's built houses for people through Habitat for Humanity and Samaritan's Purse all over the world. And she now has not only 3 kids, but 7 grandkids. And so she is one of those people who has always shown up in the big and small moments for me. She's the biggest cheerleader, often the loudest. When I was younger, was really embarrassing, and I would encourage her to not be quite so loud. But somebody who I've always known, no matter what, was in my corner, whether I was, the press secretary at the White House or a 10-year-old on a softball field. My mom was there cheering me on. And so she certainly should get a lot of the credit for giving me confidence and knowing I had somebody that was always going to love me no matter what. That helps propel you in a big way. And so my mom has had a huge influence on my life as well.
One of my wife's favorite statements is, and she told me to make sure and tell her, she said hi, by the way, big fan. But she said she used to always, people would ask her where she worked, and she said, "Oh, I work my tail off. I work at home," and that's so critical for folks. This idea that you can't, that's the most important, most wonderful, and here you are doing both so well. So, Governor, thank you for your time. Just one more kind of put you on the spot question. If you could give one piece of advice to especially young women that are watching or to tune in that want to lead at a high level. And win in their family, win in government. Give us some good old fashioned advice that maybe original to you or was given to you, but just speak to them about here's some big wins. Here's some advice in being a great leader.
You know, it may sound a little cheesy, but each and every one of us was created for a unique and special purpose. God doesn't make mistakes, so be who God created you to be. So often, and I think especially in the world that we live in right now, where there's so much noise and so much influence to be like other people and to try to follow all of the different things that you see on social media. God did not create you to be like somebody else. He created you for a very special, unique purpose. Figure out what that is and don't shy away from it, and don't be afraid to be exactly who God created you to be. There's only one of you, and so own it and really lean into whatever that is, and don't try to be like everybody else.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, Governor, again, it is such a privilege to have you. Thank you for speaking.
Absolutely.
We feel like the world needs to win, and of course we believe the biggest win, if those of you, thank you for tuning in, we actually believe the greatest win is to give your life to Jesus Christ, and that bar none is the greatest. But then, man, go for some other great wins, and you're doing that in such a great way. And so thank you for how you represent, obviously, the state, but not only that, the nation, but also Christian leadership, and so winning big. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Traits of a Champion podcast, helping you pursue the wins in life. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to hit subscribe. You can also follow along with us on Facebook, Instagram, or watch our episodes on YouTube.